Tomorrow, the 2026 World Cup begins. In less than 24 hours, the Azteca Stadium in Mexico City will host the opening match between Mexico and South Africa. 83,000 people will fill a stadium where Pelé and Maradona both made history. The tournament has been surrounded by more arguments, more controversy, and more institutional chaos than any World Cup in modern history. Now it faces a question that has hung over for months: whether the football can rise above everything happening around it. That question belongs to tomorrow. Today, on the 9th of June, 2026, the final day before the World Cup begins, the off-field story produced the most dramatic and concentrated day of news in the entire build-up. A World Cup referee was denied entry into the United States and removed from the officiating list. His historic moment, as the first Somali official ever selected for a World Cup, was taken away before a single match was played. Iran's Football Federation claimed FIFA had withdrawn its entire ticket allocation for all three of its group stage matches, leaving the federation unable to offer a single ticket to its own supporters. One of England's most respected football voices publicly described this as a World Cup of chaos. And running through all of it is a continuing story of Nigeria, the self-described biggest football nation in Africa, watching a World Cup open without them for the second time in a row, with the words of their greatest captain still echoing among those responsible. There is also, in a very different kind of story, Marcelo Bielsa and Uruguay. Not every thread in today's football picture is about failure or loss. Some of it is simply about football being extraordinary. Bielsa taking Uruguay to a World Cup is, for anyone who truly loves a game, exactly that. It begins with a story that broke this morning and prompted Ian Wright to speak publicly. Omar Abdulkader Hartoon is 34 years old. He is Somali. He worked his way through the levels of African football officiating until he was selected as one of 52 referees for the 2026 World Cup. By any measure, that selection was historic. He would have been the first referee from Somalia ever to officiate at a men's World Cup. It was not only a personal achievement, it was a meaningful moment for a country that has faced extraordinary hardship and for a football community that deserved to feel that pride. Last weekend, Hartoon arrived at Miami International Airport. He carried a diplomatic passport issued by the Somali embassy. He had gone through FIFA's approval process and had been selected and confirmed as part of the officiating roster. At the airport, Customs and Border Protection placed him through what it called an additional inspection, described as a routine part of the process when officers need to check information or determine whether someone can enter the country. After that inspection, he was told he could not enter because of what officials called vetting concerns. He was denied entry and placed on a flight home. Somalia is one of the countries subject to a complete travel ban imposed by the United States government. FIFA confirmed what had happened in a statement that was brief and evasive, even by the standards of institutional language. It confirmed that Hartoon will be unable to train and officiate at the 2026 World Cup after being denied entry. It said FIFA is not involved in the immigration processes of the host country, and that the host government ultimately decides who receives a visa and who is allowed in. It also confirmed that the decision would not be reversed. Hartoon responded with dignity. He said he was in a positive mood and focused on the next challenges in his refereeing career. He thanked FIFA and the Continental Governing Body for their support. He said he promised to keep his refereeing levels high as he looks toward the future. A man who had worked his entire career toward one moment and had it taken from him at an airport responded with composure and grace. Somalia's Ministry of Youth and Sport said he had a valid visa. The reason for his denial was described only as vetting concerns. No further details were given. Ian Wright found out and spoke to his millions of followers on Instagram in a video that was shared hundreds of thousands of times within hours. He said he had just read about the Somali referee being denied entry. Every few hours, he said, there's another story. Fans denied, players denied, officials denied, journalists denied, and now referees. He said he was laughing, but that it was not funny. He said something had to be said. He talked about the expensive tickets, the most expensive in World Cup history, along with accommodation and transport costs. He asked whether this was how the host behaved for the greatest tournament in the world, and whether this reflected the spirit of football. He said he felt most sorry for the American fans who are desperate for this tournament, who have been waiting for it, and who must feel embarrassed. He called it a World Cup of chaos. Those were not the words of someone trying to cause trouble. They were the words of a man who had spent his life in football, who was at Italia 90 when the World Cup last felt as if it was moving through something bigger than itself, and who will work as a television pundit covering this tournament. He looked at everything surrounding it and reached a conclusion he felt he had to say out loud. Every few hours, another story. Within hours of the referee's story breaking, another arrived, even more serious in what implied. Iran's Football Federation issued a statement claiming FIFA had taken back its entire ticket allocation for all 3 of its group stage matches in the United States. Every federation at a World Cup is entitled to receive and distribute 8% of stadium capacity for each of its matches. Iran plays New Zealand at a 70,000-seat stadium in Englewood on the 15th of June, then Belgium in Englewood on the 21st, and Egypt in Seattle on the 26th. Across those matches, the allocation amounts to several thousand tickets per game. Those tickets are normally given to a federation's most dedicated supporters, fans who follow their team home and away, who attended qualifying matches, and who have committed years to their national team. The federation said that, in an unexpected move, the allocation granted to it had been taken away. Under the current circumstances, it said, it was unable to offer even a single ticket to supporters of the national team. Not a reduced number, not a partial withdrawal, not one ticket. Iran supporters had already been subject to a travel ban since last year. The ticket allocation, when distributed, had gone mainly to Iranians living abroad, including those already in the United States who were not affected by the ban and could have attended the matches. Some had already purchased tickets. What happened to those purchases after the claim revocation was not clear at the time this script was written. FIFA did not immediately issue a public statement confirming or denying the federation's claim. Given what was being alleged, that silence was significant. Iran's players arrived in Tijuana on Sunday. Fans waved them as they entered their training base. Federation officials have been denied visas to enter the United States. The team crosses the border on match days and returns to Mexico each night. Now, the Federation claims the tickets meant for its supporters have been taken back. A team at its 7th World Cup is unable to offer supporters tickets to its own matches, sleeping in one country and playing another, with officials unable to enter the venue where the team competes. The full picture of Iran's experience at this World Cup is extraordinary. The sports minister said that under no circumstances could they participate. A diplomatic effort by Mexico's president made participation possible. The federation boycotted the draw ceremony in Washington. Some officials cannot get visas. The team is based in Tijuana. And now the federation claims its entire supporter allocation has been withdrawn. This is not a story about one decision or one policy. It is a story of a qualified World Cup nation navigating conditions that no other team in the history of this competition has been asked to manage. Alongside these stories of institutional failure and individual loss, today also carried a different kind of football news, the kind that explains why people fall in love with the sport in the first place. Marcelo Bielsa is taking Uruguay to the World Cup. El Loco remains one of the most obsessive, detailed, and unusual tactical minds the game has produced in the last 3 decades. He watched so much football footage that opposing clubs built special rooms to accommodate his viewing sessions. He once spent an entire night before a match sleeping in the technical area of an empty stadium so he could understand the sightlines. He managed Argentina, Chile, Athletic Bilbao, and Marseille with an intensity that players described as both terrifying and life-changing. He took over Uruguay's national team and guided them through qualification. Uruguay arrives at this World Cup in Group H with Mexico, South Africa, and Czechia, the opening group where everything begins. It creates a fascinating tactical contest between Bielsa's organized, high-intensity pressing football and Javier Aguirre's Mexico, in the country that has taken Aguirre in as one of its own. Bielsa's Uruguay squad includes Darwin Núñez, Federico Valverde, and Rodrigo Betancourt, players of genuine European-level quality. It also carries a particular spirit Uruguayan football has always brought to World Cups. The sense of a country too small to have any right to be feared, and too proud to let that stop it. Bielsa is one of the most iconic coaching figures in the sport's history. As one description of the tournament's contenders put it, Nobody has any idea what he is going to do next. That unpredictability is part of the appeal. In a tournament surrounded by institutional noise, Marcelo Bielsa at a World Cup is a reminder that this competition also belongs to the genuinely extraordinary. Managers who approach football as a problem so complex and so beautiful that a lifetime of obsessive study is the only proper response. Then there is Nigeria. They are not at this World Cup for the second time in a row. The self-described biggest football nation in Africa will watch the tournament open without them, while a generation of talent plays for other countries. Mickey Elise for France, Manuel Akanji for Switzerland, Jamal Musiala for Germany. Players born to Nigerian parents or with Nigerian heritage, representing some of the strongest squads in the field. Nigeria's own team lost on penalties to the Democratic Republic of Congo in the qualification playoff final in Rabat. The 4-3 shootout loss ended one of the most disorganized qualification campaigns in Super Eagles history. For different coaches during the cycle, a penalty loss to Ghana in the previous qualification round. And now this. John Obi Mikel did not stay quiet. He rarely does when Nigerian football fails the people who love it. On his podcast and in public appearances on British sports radio, he said what needed to be said. He called it a failure, a disaster. He chose those words carefully and meant them. He said football is the one thing that holds Nigeria together, the one thing that cuts across religion, tribe, and the economic struggles of everyday life. Whether Hausa, Yoruba, or Igbo, Muslim, or Christian, when Nigeria plays, everyone watches, everyone supports, and everyone shares the joy. For the second time in a row, he said, that joy had been taken from the people by an administration failing at every level. He said the entire board of the Nigeria Football Federation should resign, not as a crowd-pleasing statement, but as a considered position of someone who played at 2 World Cups, who understands what preparation and management of a national team require, and who watched his country fail to qualify despite having one of Africa's deepest pools of talent. He said even winning the Africa Cup of Nations would not remove the pain of missing a World Cup. He said Nigeria belongs on the biggest stage, and that nothing else comes close. What connects these 4 stories? Hartoon's denial at Miami Airport, Iran's revoked ticket allocation, Bielsa's Uruguay and Nigeria's absence, is that each reveals something essential about what the World Cup is supposed to be and what it has become. A tournament designed to represent football's universality has opened its doors to 48 nations, while closing them to a Somali referee traveling on a diplomatic passport. It has taken back a qualified nation supporter ticket allocation days before its first match. It has produced a coaching story in Bielsa that is pure football joy, untouched by institutional noise, and it has left the most populous football nation on an entire continent watching from home, with its captain asking the same question as Nigeria's supporters. How did this happen again? Ian Wright's phrase, a World Cup of chaos, will follow this tournament. It is not an unfair description of the 9th of June alone. It captures something about the entire build-up over the past several months. But chaos is not the whole story. Tomorrow, the Azteca opens. Bielsa will be in a technical area somewhere in North America, probably having not slept, probably reviewing footage of South Africa that nobody else thought to watch. The players of 48 nations, including Iran's players in Tijuana, who have endured more adversity in their preparation than any squad in World Cup history, are ready. The football is ready for all the institutional failures around this tournament. Football has one quality that remains difficult to control. When it starts, it starts. The moments arrive regardless. They are indifferent to visa bans, revoked ticket allocations, and referees turn away at airports. They happen because players of genuine quality, under maximum pressure, on the biggest stage in the world, produce things nobody planned and nobody could have scripted. That begins tomorrow, and that will still be true on the 19th of July.